Hey, what's up, Silas here? Just a short video about politics. There's some things that are happening. I think there's a paradigm shift going on in the world. I don't know what the new next form of political system is going to be, but I imagine this is a kind of feeling that existed before communities and politics switched from more royalties and things like that, from theocracies to democracies. I don't know what the next thing is going to be, but I've been following rather closely the election and the post election and the current administration of Donald J. Trump. Well, close enough. And I'm now back in Nairobi, Kenya, and there's been a situation happening with the election. The election occurred in August 8th, I think, August 8th of 2017. The results came in. There was a contested election. They said the Raila Odinga, who was running against Uhuru Kenyatta, who was the incumbent, he decided to say, okay, there's something wrong with this, something fishy going on. There's a video where I talked about this in a little more. And what turned out, the Supreme Court of Kenya decided, yes, he's right, there was something wrong in this election. So we're going to have another election coming up on the 26th, because due to the Constitution, it says if there's a problem, you have to have another one within 60 days. So that happened, and then it was like, okay, they're coming down to try and set up this new election. The date was set. The IEBC, which is the Internal Election Board Council or something like that, or international. I'm not quite sure of the actual name, but it's the council that's in charge of the elections, organizing the elections, counting the elections. And they say there was an irregularity with hacking and something with the counting of it. So they decide, okay, now they're setting up how will this next election be done. They say they don't want to do the digital stuff anymore. They say, okay, the computers can be hacked. Quite similar to some of the talk happening in the United States of America about hacking of elections. Here they say, okay, it happened. That's what happened. They said there might be a chance of that, so let's switch to hand-counted ballots, to manual counting, which I think is probably just as likely to be. I mean, if you can hack into a computer and change the code or that, you can also bribe somebody who is counting it by hand. But there's ways to do this. So they're trying to find another way to do this. And there's been a few other things happening. Now, what happened is the two parties were in there. Jubilee Party is the party of the president, Uhuru Kenyatta, and NASA, which is there's this. I might leave a link to this little video. My nephew really loves it. It's this video of this monkey. It's like a type of monkey dancing to the NASA song. It's like NASA, NASA.
Nikiwa studio.
Raila Tibim, Tibim, Agwambo Tibim, Tibim, Jinga Tibim, Tibim, Nuno Jalala, Jalala, Nuno Jalala, Jalala, NASA, 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 NASA.
And I'm just thinking, if this was done in another country, somebody would be like, oh, that's racist. But these people use it just because it's a kind of funny monkey, and they have different characters dancing to the NASA song. And of course, NASA is also National Aeronautics Space Association. The NASA, the guys that fly out into space in the United States of America. But here, it's a political party. It's an opposition party. So Jubilee has been sitting in there in the talks of who's going to be running this thing. The people in NASA side are saying we have to fire everybody in the IEBC, at least all the top officials, so we can have new people in there. Otherwise, the same problems will just happen at this October 26th election. And then about a week ago, after nobody from the opposition party was taking part in the setting up of this new election, Raila Odinga, the primary, decided to step out. He said, I'm not going to run for this election. And I think this was more of a tactical move on his part. So if nobody's in there, then there's a chance, they were talking about in the news, there was going to be a chance of them having to take back the elections and then go forward 90 days, which would have set a new election date sometime in January. The courts or the IEBC decided, no, we're not going to do this. We're just going to have the election anyway on 26th. And then now people are talking about, a lot of people are very, very tired about this. A lot of people are saying how tired they are about this election process, about this back and forth that's going on. Some people are saying, okay, let everybody on the NASA party, which also has some tribal connections with the Luhya tribe and the Luo tribe, and more people from Western Kenya, whereas the Jubilee tribe is more the Kikuyus and the Kalenjins, who are more in central Kenya. And some people are saying, why don't the people on the NASA just completely boycott the election? Tell all their supporters don't go. So it turns out there's a very low turnout, and if that happens, Uhuru Kenyatta might win with upwards of 90% of the votes if certain tribes stay out. But regardless, they would say, okay, this tarnishes his election. This makes him a lame dog president. This doesn't give him enough what's it called? Enough legitimacy to run a presidency. But it doesn't matter. He'd still be in power. And there's different situations where people have been in power, got that position of power, and even if they don't have the legitimacy, whether it's locally or internationally, they're still the president. Like, look at somebody like Kim Jong-un. He's still the president of the Democratic Republic of North Korea. It doesn't matter if you consider him illegitimate, if he has no actual competition. He's still the president. He still presides over that country in his own horrific way. So I was just thinking about that. People were talking about that. Then I'm remembering the American election and them saying Donald Trump isn't a legitimate president because he didn't win the popular vote, even though it's electoral college that matters. And that's a similar situation here. If Raila leaves and then you say, okay, he didn't have anyone running against him, or these people didn't show up, it was only 30% of the people voting, it doesn't matter. If it's in the Constitution, he's supposed to win in that certain way. And now going back to the Constitution, since Jubilee Party was in power, people were talking about how Jubilee is switching the rules to get it to a situation where they have more advantage in the upcoming election. And there's some things where, yes, I could look more into this. I just haven't gotten around to it. I probably will, because I'm trying to stay here at least until the October 26th election and see what's happening with that. And then maybe get back to the United States of America by November 4th, because there's supposedly some other bigger things coming again from this whole idea that Donald J. Trump stole the election and that he's not a legitimate president. So there's some people like Antifa, there's some people on the left, on the extremist left more, that have been talking about the alt-left, that have been talking about November 4th. There's something happening on November 4th. I wonder what it's going to be. Anyway, back to this thing. So just today, one of the reasons I decided to come out to make this video, I was getting back into the house and I heard the radio, and it was some political rally, I guess. Somebody saying, Uhuru ni mwi zi. Then Ruto it was Uhuru Nimle V. Ruto Nimui Z. And those two things, Uhuru is the president, as I said, is the current president. I think he's still the president, although there's a limbo part right now because the post-election, the election itself was nullified, so he's just still in there. But anyway, Uhuru Kenyatta, they're saying Ni Mlevi. That means he's a drunk. He takes drugs. He does things like this. And then Ruto is a vice president. They say Nimwizi, and that's a thief. And I was thinking about the United States election, how it's like people are saying Donald Trump is a thief. He's a crook. He doesn't allow these things. And then the people on the other side talking about how Hillary Clinton's an alcoholic in some situations. She was too drunk at certain places, and so this back and forth going with this, it's interesting to see what's happening with that. And then you have a further situation where I saw this other thing. Somebody was talking about how, this is just a related thing to it. Speaking about rallies, somebody was talking about, in this group I saw, why are KKK and Donald Trump meetings called rallies? And this is a situation where it really annoys me, the false conflation of things, where people putting these two things together. Why are you putting KKK and Donald J. Trump rallies together? Then I answer that, okay, why are KKK events and school sporting events both called rallies? Maybe because they're just trying to rally up support for whatever they're doing. In one case, ignorance with the KKK, sports with a high school thing. So you have those two things, and then what are you talking about? Does it mean that these two things are racist because they're both called rallies? No. Does it mean the country is going to hell or it's going to be destroyed because people are calling this president a liar, this president a drunk? No. So I'm not quite sure exactly what's going to happen with these political things. I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen here in Kenya and also what's happening in the United States of America. But I thought it was kind of interesting to have those two things juxtaposed, where you have both contested elections in the two countries I spend most of my time in, both presidential, people in high levels of politics, both being called drunks and crooks and things like this, rallies being very fiery and whatnot, the rhetoric getting higher, people in the country starting to think, okay, wow, is this really as bad of an issue? Is this something we should pay more attention to? So yeah, that's just more of the paradigm shift that I'm seeing coming. I just wanted to kind of chime in a bit about these few topics and these things that I've been seeing. And yeah, that's it for this video. And like, share, and subscribe. Till next video. Goodbye.